Welcome, traveler. Atik Prior has missed you.
Quite a lot, it turns out. We took a bit of a break to work on some more pressing matters. But we're back now. In case you missed them, this is what the first 200 days on the moon looked like.
You're consuming a nutrient paste meal. The child is dying. He absolutely hates the child. This is our doctor, by the way. Oh, come on! Yes, kill it? Oh, come on! Best of luck to you guys. Step 1, Watney, for the love of God, do not shoot them. Step 2, Doggy, gold, fabricate the firearms.
So, prepare your bodies for some cold, hard moon content as we embrace the vacuum of space yet again. We've got more violence, more drama, more fish, and more tragedy lined up than ever before. Will Lewis, Watney, Johansson, Martinez, Vogel, Mindy, Teddy, and yes, even Beck survive these new trials, or is this the end of the Luna 3 colony? We'll soon find out over the next 300 days on the moon. Day 201 slid right back into our proverbial DMs with a major revelation from everyone's least favorite doctor, Beck, who'd finally cracked the code on the Arco-Centipede sequencing machine. Apparently, the gang would need to feed dozens of live animals into its DNA banks in order to produce the thing. A feat which might be a little out of reach for the moment, given the lack of atmosphere around here.
Okay, so if I selected Canine, and then I could feed Snuffles to the centipede generator. I do not want to feed Snuffles into the machine. Oh god, no. Not Snuffles. Alright, let's just set it to Boom Genome so I don't accidentally feed Snuffles in there at some point.
Mad science wasn't the only thing that our colonists were struggling to grasp though, as almost every single one of them was missing a body part of some sort. The expanded prosthetics and organ engineering mod would fix that right up, but it'll be a little while before Beck figures out how to put organs into people for a change. This place has also become an absolute pigsty, and so Lewis, as Queen Regent of the Moon, ordered a general cleanup. The gang quickly got to work preparing to slice themselves up some extremely freezer-burnt megasloth steaks, and decided to finally recenter the killbox entrance. You're welcome. Mindy must still be hearing voices from the ether, as she had the sudden urge to ask for a smoke launcher. The voices claimed that this would hide her mom from the mech's turrets, and she figured it was worth a try. On day 202, the freshly minted launcher was given to Watney, who also figured some additional tactical options couldn't hurt. An airlock was added to the southern wall of the workshop, which should speed up movement around the base considerably. A quick check-in on the gang's asteroid mining expedition revealed an unfathomable 10,000 gold, prepped and ready to ship. Those miner bots deserved an equally overpowered holiday, and so Lewis ordered Martinez to head over and pack up shop. With crafter bots now also researched and ready to go, it was only a matter of time before the crew could truly think about beginning to resettle the surface. All those highfalutin dreams would have to wait though, as on day 203, Martinez decided to take a bit of a holiday of his own and went on a hunger strike on an asteroid in space. Very smart.
Martinez, you're gonna die on this goddamn moon, aren't you? Because you're gonna starve to death before... Oh, you're so annoying.
Martinez decided to ultimately choose life, and ended his hunger strike just as the malnutrition started getting to him on day 204. He must not be on the same healthcare plan as the rest of them, as Johansson and Lewis both got brand new lungs shortly afterwards.
No, don't harvest the lung, please. Other one. Put it back in.
Lewis even got a bonus spine installed, just in case. You'd show footage of her being... While watching Beck work, however, the crew suddenly felt the need to make a lot more medicine. Like, a whole lot. The rest of the day was equally as busy, with work on Bezos' latest vanity project chugging along and another 2 bots planned for the labor pool. The cleaner bot, in particular, would save the gang an incredible amount of time. Speaking of which, time was of the essence. An item stash quest had appeared with a circadian half cycler as a reward. This would remove the need to sleep from a colonist completely at the cost of just a little tiny bit of their brain power. Lewis must have been a princess in a past life, as it turned out she'd been sleeping on a big old jade-colored pea this whole time. In the midst of upgrading Watney, the gang ran out of medicine. They'd be in serious trouble if the mech showed up, and so Lewis ordered an immediate halt to their worker augmentation program, or WAP for short.
Bring a bucket and a mop for this wet-ass fjord.
The Glitterworld medicine had other uses, and it was just way too valuable to waste on little things like replacing organs. The Robinson Spice Company mixed herb bag works just fine for that. Day 205 also saw the finishing touches placed on Jeff's monument. The gang immediately began recycling his marital aid to receive some sweet, sweet Jesus juice as a reward. Apparently, this granted the power to change water into poop, as it was shortly discovered that the crew's drinking water was severely contaminated.
Uh-oh.
Vex started looking into filtration systems, and Watney suggested that they dig a new well. Can't spell cholera without hole. Rather than tear down the central monument, Vogel suggested using the space to expand the workshop, and the bots got to work on it right away.
Do you know what? Maximum flex? Make them out of gold. Oh yeah.
Work on the base continued well into day 206, with the new workshop getting wires and a roof, Lewis bartering for more medicine, some more generators being added to the pool, and a water filter being installed in the utilities room. Day 207 opened with Lewis receiving a voluntary upgrade to her rock climbing abilities by having a layer of gross, callousy skin installed all over her body. This would make her a lot tougher, if perhaps a little bit more abrasive. Watney, on the other hand, received some decidedly non-voluntary upgrades to his legs while he slept. Fearing that he may outrun her, Johansson had her own bean swapped out shortly afterwards.
Oh, we got a free eyeball. Hell yeah. And it doesn't perish? Must be nice. Man.
A mailman then appeared out of nowhere and took a short walk out of the airlock for a little fresh air. This joke only works if you can see that it's spelled male, like M-A-L-E, like a male man.
Okay. Man. Welcome. He's male, too. It's as good as it gets. He's gonna get genetic diseases in 3 years. No, he's perfect. We will teach him to haul. He shall be our pet man.
Man return to world? Yes, I think so.
The perimeter wall then received some much needed love.
Gimme a rim after midnight. Uh-oh.
Day 208 began with yet another siege by the mechs. Using their newly developed, extremely advanced tactic of punching them in the face until they stop moving, right? The gang was able to put down the first wave without too much difficulty. It turns out Watney's been studying up, as his arms now did as much damage as Martinez's gas-powered stick did.
Yeah, we had the mace, and we got some components. That's a really nice get. Celestial asteroid, I don't think we're worried too much about that. What happened over here?
The power plant then exploded.
Okay, it's gonna be a bit of an expensive one to repair all this, but we can do it. Oh no, bot 3? Oh, and there go the chem fuel tanks. Okay. This is going to be a bit of a problem, because we are now officially and entirely out of power.
I have been informed that absolutely no one at party headquarters could have seen this coming. I have also been told that I am very happy to be here. On day 209, the workshop got some new doors, and the gang figured out how to drink water, but deeper. The moon must be a League of Legends player, because it's getting salty. Bob, after an incredible charge past the turrets, died yet again. Taken again from us too soon, again. Day 210 brought with it a truly unique addition to the colony, an actual, literal, non-trademark infringing Roomba. With the power of basic sanitation at their fingertips, the gang decided to expand the hospital and look into the arcane secrets of producing actual medicine. No more would they be confined to lightly seasoning their wounds. 2 new crafterbots then made the cut, and the snowball rarely began to roll. A new deep fuel pump pushed back the impending shed loading crisis, and the gang could once again comfortably pretend that their country wasn't collapsing around them. Colony. I meant to say colony. Moving the workshop into its new home took the entirety of day 211. Just a little movie magic, and voila! There it is. Day 212 saw the museum finally get some attention, and the gang put the final touches on this confounded germ theory hypothesis that Beck was always raving about. Lewis then unloaded a metric ton of trash onto an unsuspecting textiles trader and got back to scheming. In order to make more medicine, they'd need neutroamine, and in order to make another man-man, they would need genoframes. These 2 things felt equally important to her. A flick of a switch, and there was light. In the workshop, specifically. Day 213 brought with it a game-changer of a revelation. Mindy's voices were clearly onto something, as the smoke launcher worked better than they could have ever hoped for.
Oh my god. Oh my god, they're not targeting him. We've done it.
The gang made quick work of the southwestern mech cluster that had taken Bob from us again, so recently. Again. Vogel also decided that it was time for a squad upgrade, and ordered the bots to get started on some democratically elected M16 assault rifles. Being the dumb, stupid, dumb, bald idiots that they are, the mechs dropped their next raid into a wall. This proved to be an effective strategy, however, as they were able to get within the minimum range of the uranium turrets and actually take them out.
Okay, hold on. Watney, I love you, but it's more important that this thing does not destroy my turrets! Oh no! Run, Watney, run, you fool! Oh baby, oh no, oh, they're so expensive.
Day 214 was all about cleaning up, as the Roomba army was moved into the new workshop, and work began on repurposing the old one. With so much additional room in the main chamber, the kitchen got its first expansion in years. A few interior turrets would also guarantee that we wouldn't be having any more unwanted guests, well-wishers, or distant relations. No thank you, not us, no sir, nah-uh. In fact, both days 15 and 16 were spent on the remodel, with the gang deciding to explore a new, novel concept they were calling early childhood education. Not wanting the students to forget their lunatic roots, the decision was made to have the turrets face the children at all times. The additional security would surely make them feel safe and comfortable, thus promoting a healthier learning environment. This was soon put to the test, with Mindy getting her very first lesson, all under the watchful eye of their school mascot, Tracy Turret.
Yay!
The Crafterbots were already paying dividends, as on day 217, a Masterwork assault rifle was born. It was so accurate, in fact, that it was able to pinpoint the exact underground location of some much-needed gold and silver. A little late, but forgivably so, Lewis gave a powerful speech to commemorate the anniversary of their landing on the moon.
And I do fear that the robot is welding a little bit close to her butt cheeks because she's speaking about her mind as a rocket. It's just should have blasted off again.
To ensure that they would still be around for the next one, Watney politely waited for her to finish before getting to work on the new hydroponics bay. An exotic goods trader then showed up with a combat AI enhancement, as well as a few psychic insanity lances that the gang could use in a pinch. As if begging to get lanced, a mech raid dropped inside the walls almost immediately afterwards.
Oh no. This is bad.
Thankfully, they were no match for the awe-inspiring power of Watney punching them in the face
Until I ain't moving no more, what?
Day 218 brought with it several critical healthcare revelations and gave Beck access to new, experimental surgeries. Absolutely nothing concerning about that sentence whatsoever. Sticking to the theme, Watney and Lewis received a few new upgrades, although Watney's did not go particularly well.
Oh no!
However, completely not on theme was the discovery of a brand new water world. Definitely a franchising move that is not in any way doomed to fail whatsoever.
Good morning.
Beck must have gotten his organs mixed up again, as while attempting to install that ludicrously expensive combat AI into Johansson on day 219, he instead installed a food blender into her skull.
Oh no. Okay, so Johansson's brain is a little bit broken. You have 50% brain. It's not ideal.
As the world's premier doctor, we can only trust his methodology on this one, but Johansson would now need several lifetimes to recover. Despite his many failings, Beck keeps his promises, and ordered up a fresh prosthetic nose for Johansson to enjoy. Not one to miss out on a bad time, Beck then gave himself a new leg. What a lovely bunch of psychopathic moon people these are. Day 220 opened with Lewis ordering up several new Roombas. These would be deployed to construct the new base on the water moon. Everyone knows mechs can't swim. A genetic supplier then rolled around and Watney was sent in to negotiate. Lewis, being about as high as a high person fresh off the line at the high person factory, was not sent in to negotiate. All of their gold later, the gang now had what they needed to create more men. Seems like a solid trade to me. A new workbench followed shortly after, with biosculpting and bioregeneration being queued up to hopefully fix Johansson. On day 221, Martinez decided it was time for a family outing. They all piled into the RV alongside Snuffles and headed down to the item stash before it was lost for good.
The stash chose dog. Snuffles, I choose you!
A little dog-on-dog action later, and the items were secured. Not wanting to waste any time whatsoever, Beck immediately went about installing the Circadian half-cycler into Vogel. Now he could be a 24/7 pacifist rather than just a part-timer. Martinez, not one to be upstaged, then blasted off to a new water moon, and on day 222 marked the first time in history anyone had ever gone to the ocean on purpose. Ever. Subnautica has done a number on me, okay? I don't want to go back there.
It is literally just a moon of water. Literally just shallow water. Water moon. Oh, we can build bridges here. Okay, steel bridge takes 12 steel. Sandstone bridge can be built. Steel bridge can be built. Oh my god. What is this? Stationary artificial island. Oh, baby, let's go. Wood, hay, stones.
It was then time for more man, as well as a dedicated biosculpting room that we definitely 100% will not completely forget to use. That's called foreshadow. Had they bothered to read the instructions, the gang would have known that bioregeneration requires Glitterworld medicine, of which they did not have enough. It's day 223 of this, by the way. Teddy then decided to set fire to the marble roulette table. I never said she was smart, but was told off by Lewis before she could get very far. Figuring that if they were terrified of landing on a water moon, the crew wondered if maybe the mechs would be too. If nothing else, the shallow water would both slow down any invaders and fill their pockets with plenty of ball-chafing sand. Lovely. Thus, on day 224, a true endgame was conceived. The maddened ravings of Martinez were laid down in print for the entire colony to read. They would construct a mighty fortress above the waves, fit with everything they'd need to survive indefinitely. Such a monumental undertaking would require monumental effort, however, and so their attention turned again to Atik Prior. Much of it was a barren wasteland, somehow less habitable than the hard vacuum of the moon. Yet they knew that somewhere down there, perhaps amongst the peaks of a forgotten mountain range, sanctuary could be found. As if to celebrate, the Lisan al-Gaib then gifted them a mighty hoard of genetic stabilization material, so that they may continue to expand the Ummah. Let the infidels bask in the light of the man, for they are the only path through the greater jihad. Martinez, as the architect of their hubris, was dispatched on day 225 to survey the world beneath them. His dosimeter readings registered only 3.5 Röntgen. Not great, not terrible. Unlike this accent, which is straight up horrendous. With an abundance of wildlife, vegetation, and mineral wealth to exploit, this location would do nicely. To ensure that they would live to see this new world, Vogel and Beck, two of the oldest in the colony, received the first age reversal treatments. There must still be a spy in their midst, as the mechs chose this moment to attack. After defeating them soundly, the gang turned their attention back to healing Johansson of her wounds and finished their study of bioregeneration. On day 226, beneath the thruster fires of yet another descending mech raid, Man II was born. Second of his name, consumer of his twin, his reign shall be as eternal as it shall be great.
Seriously though, he seems to have eaten the other growth cell. It's gone. It's just disappeared. We checked. No death message or anything. It's just gone. He must have just popped out. Didn't I queue up another one?
Lo, the great work continued unimpeded, for the incubation of another man had already begun. Word of their great deeds was clearly spreading, as another refugee group then petitioned the gang for their help. Heaters were added to the walls outside to raise their chances of survival, and Man II, being a little too enthusiastic to spread the divine word of the Muad'Dib to them, immediately sprinted out of the nearest airlock and, well, it went about how you'd expect.
Man has died. Ah. Yeah, that's on me. He should have been on the children's zone.
On day 227, the colony mourned.
He has perished, but he is not forgotten. We will bury him.
Taken from us too soon, Man II was interred in a sarcophagus worthy of his standing. Or knuckling, perhaps? Either way, the heavens too wept as a toxic fallout descended upon the planet-side colony, temporarily preventing the gang's return. Not one to be left out of a bad time, though, Lewis then accepted a volcanic winter contract that all but confirmed the source of those moonquakes they'd been feeling.
They wanna put a volcanic winter on the moon. Moon volcano is a must-have, and for a Psychic Neuroformer, I say yes.
For her prescience, Lewis was given the Neuroformer and gained another psychic ability, Blinding Pulse. This could be used to temporarily reduce the accuracy of hostiles, but it took up a lot of psi focus. It also wasn't clear if it worked on mechs. The voices would have to let us know. Psi Focus, by the way, is the special wizard juice that the gang uses to cast their wizardly spells. It regenerates when meditating and slowly fades when not in use, much like your father's approval. With the last monument quest then complete, the gang ordered the robots to strip it back down for as much usable marble as they could muster, and Lewis accepted another quest down on the surface. This one would provide them even more information on the relic they'd been hunting, but more importantly, it would provide an opportunity to add some additional genetic variety to the colony. Speaking of the exact opposite, Lewis then personally oversaw the next man's incubation. Day 228 saw the refugee tunnels finally beginning to warm up to acceptable levels, just as the first prototype kitchen bots became available for production. These could be used to farm down on the planet and would free up even more time around the base down there. With the tunnels now ready to receive boarders, the gang prepared to accept the refugees on day 229. Only 2 people arrived this time, which was just as well, as there was currently only 1 spare spacesuit floating around.
Hell yes.
The team rushed to deliver the first suit to the new arrivals. An actual cannibal named Hayden, who was immediately renamed to Hannibal, and a Neanderthal woman named Lynx, who I asked my Discord community to name for me. Link in the description, by the way.
Kidnapped as a teenager, Lynx was an unwilling test subject in experimental gene therapies. Ooh. Okay, we'll have to find an appropriate name for Lynx.
Lynx made it back to the colony without any trouble, and the suit was quickly rushed back to the border for Hannibal to wear. Unfortunately, our actual cannibal Hannibal simply refused to wear the thing.
It would replace locked apparel. Uh-oh. Oh, he won't take off the sash. He's too attached to it. He's literally going to die of exposure because he won't take off his freaking bandolier. Okay, new plan. You're not gonna love this.
Beck then respectfully sedated him and dragged him back to the colony unconscious. We'll pretend he put the suit on him first. No doctor would willingly expose someone to vacuum, right? Right? Not wanting Lynx to feel left out, he then immediately sedated her and removed her hook hand. As a body purist, it was driving her crazy without much benefit. Day 230 opened with actual cannibal Hannibal LaBeouf spacing himself within seconds of regaining consciousness. Perhaps the thought of an exclusively pace-based diet just wasn't doing it for him.
Yes, waste not, what not, right?
As one light faded though, another one was lit, for Man the Third was born and given the name Men, so that he might remember those that came before. The accent is all over the place, baby. Joey, another refugee of sorts, then called in demanding urgent care, which the gang accepted in return for some much needed Glitterworld medicine. He must have read the invitation wrong, as the man landed on the wrong dang moon. Lynx took that moment to attempt a revolt and was imprisoned while she cooled off. Recruiting her this way would also guarantee her loyalty. Unfortunately, the same could not be done for Joey, who simply could not be taken back to the moon for protection.
Take this. Ah, shit. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I thought we could fly him back. I have Goof.
Martinez floated, get it, the idea of building him a little ocean shack to live in and sending in supplies by cannon until they had a base set up. With that in mind, Martinez rushed over with some basic supplies to keep him alive, all while a delivery cannon was set up to send over building materials. It's basically a railgun that just throws rocks at the moon. There's nothing more badass than that, you cannot convince me otherwise. Martinez rushed to build Joey a temporary shelter on day 231, as he was already feeling the effects of malnutrition. Hauling him out of the water and onto a ramshackle dock he just built, Martinez fed the man before realizing he was already succumbing to frostbite. Unlike the moon they called home, this one was subject to actual seasonal temperatures, and it was a balmy -13 degrees Celsius outside. The decision was made to return him to home base, but Joey refused to go.
Joey's gonna die.
Out of options, Martinez decided to abandon the man for dead, and racked by grief, he arrived back on the moon and immediately snapped. Turns out, the grief was over the death of his friend, not the man back on the moon, but his close, personal buddy, Hannibal the actual cannibal. What the hell, Martinez?
My friend Hannibal died? You met him once.
In fact, it then became pretty clear that the entire colony was feeling his loss.
Everybody they freaking loved him. Dude, they loved the cannibal. Look at this. It's so unexpected. The man just spaced himself and they're all mourning him. Except Beck, of course, because he's a friggin' psychopath.
What in the Ted Bundy is going on here, by the way? Now, listen, you could say that he had great taste in people. You could say that, but you shouldn't. Joey, fittingly, then took a painstakingly long time to die.
No, Joey, brother, it's over. Just let go. He won't die. The man will not die.
Vowing to never lose another man to chilly toes, Johansson began research on tapping into geothermal power. Martinez, finally over the worst of his grief, decided to head down to Atik Prior and began setting up their temporary new work camp. With the old location still plagued by some nasty toxic fallout, he selected a new candidate and settled there as the sun set on day 232.
Okay, we parked inside a mountain. Excellent work as always, Martinez. You never cease to amaze. Now, the northern mountain is unfortunately all sandstone, but we've got these large marble chunks here, some slate down towards the south, not as nearly as much slate as I would have liked, but marble is going to be our primary resource anyway.
As the sun rose on day 233, Martinez got to work. Setting up the Roombas, that is, who then actually got to work. This new location had a whopping 10 thermal geysers they could exploit for power if needed.
And there's a thrumbo. Hey, those are supposed to be extinct.
Martinez ordered the bots to start gathering resources and then began work on a prototype generator, which he naturally fucked up. On day 234, the landing party broke ground in earnest. The bots tore into the side of the mountain and set up stone cutting benches to process the raw chunks into usable blocks. Back on the moon, work began on a new set of Roombas to bolster the fleet, just as Mindy, wandering the halls once again, had begun to hear a new voice. This one wasn't in her head, and it didn't belong to anyone in her strange little family. This voice was deep and primal. It called out to her as she wandered past it from time to time. It promised her friendship. It promised her kindness. But today, it promised to make sure she'd never have those dreams again. Mindy hesitated only for a moment before reaching out and opening the door. There, looming just beyond the threshold, was a massive, naked woman. Mindy panicked and ran, leaving the passage door open as she fled. Hearing her cries, Watney and Vogel sprinted to find their prisoner, Lynx, attempting to escape. Vogel quickly radioed into Roomba Control and ordered them to start work on a proper cell immediately, while Watney slowly approached his quarry. Recalling those documentaries on the prison systems of old Earth that he'd seen in the past, he raised his shotgun and prepared to beat the ever-loving daylights out of a naked, unarmed woman. However, Watney had miscalculated. Lynx was an unarmed, naked Neanderthal woman who caved in his chest on the 4th hit.
Oh my god.
Watney crumpled to the floor, lifeless and inert, just as Lewis and Teddy turned the corner. Teddy let out a cry of grief and leveled her gun. Lynx had already grabbed Watney's chain gun and was moving to cover. Screaming for Teddy to get back, Lewis fired her thrusters and closed the gap between herself and Lynx to keep her attention off the child. She rushed into melee and almost immediately lost a leg to Lynx's impossible brute strength. Panicking, Lewis jumped back across the room and let off a burst of fire that, thankfully, incapacitated their errant prisoner. Vogel sprinted into the room and began tending to Lynx's wounds, while Beck was already rushing to retrieve the resurrection serum they'd secured just for this eventuality. Within seconds, he was next to Watney's mangled corpse and began the reconstruction procedure. There was little risk of any mental incapacity this close to the moment of death, but each passing second increased the chances of a partial failure. With Teddy and Mindy watching closely, Beck pulled it off. Watney's body jumped back into life, bones resetting themselves and wounds miraculously closing. It would be a few days before he could move again, but he was back. Despite the turmoil of the past few hours, the main thing weighing on everyone's mind was still Hannibal's death. The single ray of hope they had had in their miserable world was the joy they all seemingly felt at Joey's slow, lonely death on a distant, frozen, barren moon. Who the f*** are these people? I'm starting to feel like Beck might be the only sane one here and just hates them all because they're a bunch of actual monsters. Maybe all those failed surgeries were a thinly veiled attempt to rid the universe of them all. Maybe. Completely oblivious to the chaos going on above him, Martinez continued his work on the planetside base into day 235. The ceiling lights apparently didn't like the increased gravity, and so would have to be all floor lamps moving forward. Sincerely though, the mod just broke at some point, and now I can't place them. Make it make sense. The next batch of bots was then delivered to the planet alongside our beautiful men. No chance of them airlocking themselves down there. Day 236 saw the construction of a freezer and a water treatment room. And day 237 saw Martinez get his very own bedroom, complete with marble furniture and smooth stone floors. The bots then threw together a nutrient paste dispenser for the dining room, just as Martinez decided to name the colony Atik's Landing, because he is ultimately an incredibly boring person. Work hadn't stopped up on the moon either, as Watney was now back on his feet and had already located some silver for deep drilling. This would be handy in building some new bots.
What's wrong with the Martinez?
Martinez, being the diva that he is, had apparently been refusing to eat the raw food lying about the place, and had since collapsed due to malnutrition. What a genius. On day 239, the gang was beginning to worry that they'd brought the budget software for the ER bots, as feeding Martinez wasn't an option for them, apparently.
Raw. ER bot should go feed him? The ER bot is not feeding him.
As such, Beck found himself being unwillingly shoved into a cargo shuttle and blasted off down to the surface to enact the emergency mastication procedure. Thank God he had a spacesuit on. Somehow, Palpatine returned. As did Martinez's hunger bar.
I don't understand. He got up and fed him.
Whoops. Sorry, Beck. With Beck gone, the rest of the crew took the opportunity to hold a dance party and set up the new kitchen bots to make them some choice survival meals, bruh. Never again would paste defile their taste buds. Now taste would defile their paste buds. Bruh.
Okay, robot, get played.
The same bot was then also unwillingly crammed into a resupply shuttle and blasted off down to Atik's landing alongside some additional fuel and a few meals. Day 240 opened with Martinez laying out his plans to turn this humble cave into a humble cave with toilets. And drugs. Lots of drugs. So many, in fact, that they would prove to be a pretty valuable commodity further down the line. Being an anarcho-capitalist sociopath at heart, Beck ordered the bots to carve out a trading area to ensure the unimpeded flow of his free market ideology. And also the drugs. Day 241 opened with a display of some truly bizarre behavior by the AI, when a mechanoid raid showed up out of nowhere packing ranged weapons of all things. Disgusting. Apparently, headbutting the turret's bullets was suddenly too good for them. Martinez and Beck were sent home to help deal with the raid, and the full team made short work of it.
Hold on, we could use the psychic glance on the centipede. Weirdly enough, it actually works. Watch this. Okay, so we're gonna make that centipede. It's now berserking, so its own men are gonna attack it as well.
Despite losing the free, infinite sources of power in their haste to defeat the cluster, the gang went to bed that evening the happiest they'd ever been. Finally, after so many years on this frigid, barren rock, they were beginning to carve out a home for themselves. A sense of complacency seemed to hang in the air as Mindy closed her eyes for the night. It wouldn't last long. Again, the voices called out to her. Water, water, water. They whispered. Water, water, water. They begged. Again, Mindy answered, but this time, her voice was not alone. The gang rose from their beds on day 242 with a sense of unified purpose. They'd all felt it. They'd all heard them. Perhaps Mindy wasn't insane. Perhaps they all were. Regardless, their purpose was now clear. Waterloo. A delivery cannon was constructed in short order by the bots down on Atik's landing, and the first deliveries of cut stone had landed before the day was out. Here, they would build their temple. Here, they would build their final home. A combat supplier arrived on day 243, and Lewis ordered that all of their surplus material be sold to cover the cost of creating more bots. The water moon would require an army of workers to prepare it for habitation. As if by divine providence, Lynx chose that exact moment to join the colony. Perhaps she too had shared their dream. Perhaps all of the scattered remnants of humanity had in some way. Being the first new person to join this strange little family in well over 3 years, the crew was a little uncertain on what to do with her. One thing was clear, however, behind that large, brutish brow, intelligence stirred. Lynx looked at them as though they were monsters, demons that had voluntarily relinquished all traces of their former humanity. Cyborgs. All of them. They disgusted her. It also probably didn't help that Teddy had started calling her Dogwater, and the name had just kind of stuck.
So I asked the Discord server to name Lynx for me. She's a Neanderthal. She's a beefy one. And they kind of just named her after themselves. All the suggestions in general were just absolute dog water. So you know what? You don't want to play ball? This is what you get. Okay? Everybody meet Dogwater. Welcome to the colony.
Day 244 opened with Vogel suggesting that the crew begin work on some method of interstellar transportation. The water moon would be humanity's new home, yes, but there may be others out amongst the stars in need of salvation. The crew unanimously agreed to begin work on the basics of starflight. Johansson suggested that growth pods might be needed to support the crew on such a potentially long voyage, and they were moved to the front of the list. Day 244 also just happened to be Mindy's 10th birthday!
Oh my god, look at this, man. We have not educated these children at all. That's a bit tragic, isn't it?
After so many years of pure, wholesome quality time with her two dads, she'd picked up both of their passions. She'd learned the gentle art of tending to the sensitive ecosystems of their hydroponics arrays from Watney, and had learned how to coat every square inch of a corridor in oil, fire, and blood from her doting mentor Martinez. Such a lovely child. As if to taunt her, the mechs chose that exact moment to raid the colony, but on the wrong planet.
Uh-oh. Okay, Johansson, are you still, like, really slow? Yes, because your brain is destroyed, of course. Why wouldn't it be?
The crew scrambled to their shuttle and blasted off to the surface as fast as they could.
Oh, he's gonna 1v1 the tortoise! Okay, saved by nature once again. The planet fights back. Okay, when the tree starts speaking mechanoid, that's when you know you've got a problem. Never mind. Okay, turns out some problems are quite easily solved.
They dispatched the mechs easily and decided to spend the night in Atik's Landing for a change. Everyone packed up and said their goodbyes to Martinez on day 245 as he'd volunteered to stay behind and begin taming everything, everywhere, all at once.
Why don't you go harvest some lemons, brother? Okay, what you got for me? 6.2% chance to tame the rhino. That's gonna be a long battle.
Back on the moon, Johansson put down the first prototype growth pod, and Teddy volunteered to be her guinea pig. The vat would make her into an adult in no time, but should never, absolutely never, under any circumstances whatsoever, be subject to review by an ethics committee.
Alright, so what's he gonna fill it with? What are we gonna grow Teddy out of? Okay, we're gonna grow Teddy out of mega sloth meat. She's gonna get huge. That was quick.
Do you wanna build a snowman?
With Teddy having attained questionably legal majority by day 246, she was now free to choose her own path. So long as that path led to the water boot, of course. Much to her parents' disappointment, she decided to pursue a liberal arts degree and become a largely unemployed YouTuber. Unable to bear the second-hand shame, Lewis packed herself some supplies and a bot into the shuttle and flew off to the water moon to cope. She connected the bot up to the ship's power and set it to work building a proper landing pad. Shed loading made its next canonical appearance on days 247 and 248, and the mighty trees of the Fangorn Forest were chopped down to fuel the industries of Isengard. Atik's Landing. I meant Atik's Land. While the planet may have been fresh out of Ents, it certainly had no shortage of unicorns.
Uh-oh.
The mythical beast didn't take too kindly to Martinez's repeated romantic attempts, and decided to liberate him from his ability to walk. The men, apparently harboring pro-unicorn sympathies, refused to help.
He's lost a pinky and he's collapsed.
Lewis bolted for the ship and flew down to rescue Martinez. If anyone was breaking his kneecaps, it would be her, goddammit. In a stroke of sheer luck, one of the unicorns bled out on its own, another walked off into the woods, and the men, sensing that history was once again on the gang side, finally intervened and mauled the last one to death. The ER-bot rescued Martinez just as Lewis arrived, and she decided to remain by his side in case the other one came back. Not wanting to leave anything to chance, Lewis woke Martinez on day 249 and went out hunting. The last unicorn was dealt with quickly, and their bodies were loaded into a railgun and shot into space. Respectfully, of course. Clearly in dire need of a day off and completely out of PTO, Martinez called in sick with something called sleeping sickness. Yeah, sure thing, buddy. That's coming out of the paycheck. Teddy took that moment to officially enter the workforce as a fully fledged 14-year-old adult. That feels gross to say.
Someone poured mega sloth meat and a cocktail into your damn vat to help you grow?
She was given a rifle and a spacesuit and immediately got to work. POV, you have accidentally created Ancapistan on the moon. Oh, God help us. On day 250, Lewis made the call to bring Martinez home and then immediately set off for the water moon to drop off a larger workforce. Teddy had apparently missed a few key life lessons while she was in the vat and started burning down the drugs. The wrong way, this time. It was clear now that the moon was no place for a child, and so Lewis, Vogel, Dogwater, and the kids all piled into the bus and flew down to Atik's Landing. Vogel immediately ordered the bots to carve out a school, and Johansson took this rare opportunity to throw a party without her kids around.
Johansson's throwing a party. Everyone, the kids left, and Johansson's like, hell yeah, brother, time to throw down.
어딜 가든 매번 네 생각이 난다고 Alright 너의 목소리가 너무 그리웠다고 All the time 하늘도 파랗게 웃고 있는데 널 보면 이렇게 웃음이 나는데 It's electric Maybe I'm obsessed We got chemistry 너 알잖아 Baby love me more
Day 251 was a day of healing for the crew. Thanks to their semi-valiant efforts in defense of Martinez, the men were permitted to sleep on the floor, but with a bit of cloth underneath them for a change. Truly, we are a generous god. Johansson was also finally healthy enough to attempt a dosage of the healer mech serum the gang had secured a while ago. The nanobots got to work immediately, and her relative consciousness rose to 70% of its baseline. Not quite there, but closer. This boost in productivity saw her smash through the Starflight Basics research in no time. An intriguing quest then came across Lewis's proverbial desk. These weirdos don't actually seem to have much in the way of furniture, offering 2 Resurrector mech serums in exchange for successfully fending off a pair of mech raids.
An ancient supercomputer terminal. Oh god, Scratch, what did you do to it? Well, I don't like the usage of the word violated there.
The only catch? They'd have to fight them down on the planet. Excited that there would be killing involved, I mean, excited about the serums, she accepted it without a second thought and began to draw battle plans. While Lewis plotted and planned, days 252 and 253 passed by her in a blur. The bots continued their work on the new sanctum, and Watney's next batch of copyright-free potatoes were successfully harvested. Lewis emerged from her office on day 254, covered in paper cuts and pencil lead, with a clear plan for the defense of Atik's landing. The entire crew was rallied, and supplies were gathered. A diagonal wall will be built at the entrance to the valley, and an accompanying hospital and prison would be dug out to facilitate the care of the sick and wounded. The mechs, disappointed with the military applications of the hungry mechapilla, must have started reading Sun Tzu instead, because they chose this exact moment to attack their enemy where they were not.
Well, that's bad. That's really.
Day 255 opened with a mad scramble to get back to the moon in time to fend off the mech raid, as a random cloud of toxic fallout then also moved in over the map. Why not? The gang's bad luck didn't end there, as an unexpected storm on the water moon shorted out the generator and nearly took the bots with it. Using the last of their battery reserves, the Rumors were able to cobble together another generator and a rudimentary shelter for it. Man, when it rains! And then the Seifeld theme. Is that the I don't know. On day 256, the crew decided to tackle a brand new challenge, as if they needed anything else to think about, and accepted a government tender to join the prison industrial complex. For their troubles, they received 3 archers and 1 Scratch as compensation. Scratch was promptly placed in a comfortable stone hole, and a few turrets were added to the rapidly growing fortifications. With the entire colony now down on Atik Prior, it was clear that they'd all need something to do. A workshop was dug out on day 257, and a fabrication bench and machining table were cobbled together in no time. As if to answer their prayers, a completely unrelated mechanoid raid then landed to rescue them from their boredom. Commissar Lewis informed the 3 archers that they had bravely volunteered to draw the mech's fire and sent them to the front line. Unfortunately, they hadn't packed their spacesuits, and the gang had to tackle the raid that immediately followed, all by themselves. Meanwhile, progress over on the water moon was continuing nicely. By day 258, the bots had completed both the landing pad and the first quarter, and had already begun work on the second. The crew made short work of the moon raiders, and then let the kill box handle the bunch that dropped in right after them. This is starting to get a little ridiculous.
Oh my god, that is scary. Please kill this. Please kill this. My walls! Oh, look at that. Mindy got up to melee level 2. Nice. You teacher, Dogwater, you teacher.
Day 259 was the big one. The first wave of mechs associated with the quest landed rather appropriately at Atik's Landing. They must have won the Silicon Lottery, as this batch was a little more crafty than usual. Rather than simply walking through the hail of bullets like they normally would, the mechs decided to take a more direct route and punch their way through a mountain. You've gotta respect the tenacity. With the majority of the crew's fighting force still up on the moon, someone would need to keep the mechs busy while they regrouped. Dogwater and the archers were once again volunteered. As they took up positions in the low ground near the geothermal generators, the jungle fell silent, as if holding its breath in anticipation. Dogwater's ears rang with the rhythmic sounds of her own heartbeat, almost perfectly matched with the distant thud of the mech's cannon fire. She'd faced mechs before, but never like this, never so exposed or outnumbered. She looked out at the tribals she would once have called family, who, like her, had been so recklessly assigned as cannon fodder by an uncaring commander, and felt nothing but remorse. They would surely not survive the night. Just then, the distinct low rumble of a jump pack broke through the quiet, and Dogwater spun around trying to locate the source. It was Teddy. She'd chosen to join them here, at the end of all things, and slammed down behind the southern generator, out of cover and in clear sight of the mech's approach. Did she plan to take them on alone? No sooner than her feet had touched the ground, the mountain in front of them exploded. Mechanoids swarmed through the breach and unleashed a maelstrom of fire down towards Teddy. Even as she turned to flee, she felt the first rounds tear through her suit's thin plating. The suit's automated evacuation systems kicked in and sent her hurtling back towards the base's main entrance. She dragged herself into the hospital, and Vogel's ER bot moved in to stabilize her. Dogwater and her doomed comrades had not fared much better. As soon as the mechs rounded the corner, she ordered them to retreat back to the main entrance as well, but they were cut down before they could even move. She landed near the main doors, wounded and bleeding heavily, and dragged herself down towards the hospital. For the third time that night, the thunderous roar of firing rockets broke the fading quiet. The rest of the crew spilled out of their carrier and ran towards the source of the commotion. The mechs were clearly attempting another breach, and so Lewis ordered the crew to take up positions in the kitchen in an attempt to limit the damage to the base. Before they could all even get to cover, the mechs were on top of them. Las cannon fire and bullets alike shattered themselves against the once pristine marble walls of the freezer. Lewis, recognizing that their position was untenable, ordered the retreat once more. Johansson pulled back through the doorway, pausing briefly to close the doors behind her. Watney spun around and screamed at her to get back, but before the first syllable had even formed in his throat, she was gone. The love of his life, the mother of his children, and their last hope of escape. Gone. Taken from him in an uncaring instant by a machine that could not even comprehend his loss. The man that was Watney died then too. His mind, shattered and broken, turned its blinding rage towards the monsters before him. A psychic shriek tore through the air between them, channeling all of its hatred and malice through the lance on Beck's hip into one singular thought. The two largest mechs collapsed in a heap of writhing circuitry just as Watney crushed the head of the one he was grappling with. He let out a final, breathless scream before he, too, fell. Lewis ordered a retreat, and the crew fell back into the base to regroup. The mechs split their firing line apart and began to move further into the compound. Lewis took immediate advantage of their repositioning and ordered the entire squad to charge. They fired their rockets and landed in the midst of their enemies, crushing them underfoot. With the threat finally over, the group collapsed, beaten and exhausted, but acutely aware of the fact that their ordeal was far from over. On day 260, Lewis sat down. She was shaken, badly, uncharacteristically even. Was this her fault? Could she have done more? For the first time since assuming the mantle of leadership, she felt doubt. She felt fear. Fear is the mind killer. She watched as Watney and Johansson were laid to rest side by side in death just as they had been in life. Lovers, friends, crewmates. They would be missed. They would not be forgotten. The others were not looking at her like they used to. All but one of the archers under her command had died. The only survivor, Billy Boy, was paralyzed and in a critical condition, but stabilizing. She found herself feeling their loss, empathy. That once distant relation of hers had come home to roost, it seemed. She ordered that the wall to the west be rebuilt and reinforced before turning her attention back to her friends. Yes, perhaps this is what they were to her now. Friends. Perhaps they always had been. She took stock of their injuries and found that virtually no one had made it through the battle unscathed. She sent word up to the moon and the bots began to work on what replacements they could manage. Some injuries were internal and would require further insights to make replacements for. For now, a prototype tongue was just about all they could manage. Since they wouldn't be going anywhere for a while, a research lab on the surface was commissioned and the bots got to work on it. Day 261 brought with it more promises of violence. A mech cluster landed nearby but would remain dormant until disturbed. The gang's pet panther decided it also wanted a slice of glory and took on its most fearsome opponent yet, a bird. After a grueling battle, it emerged triumphant and was named Oliver for its troubles. Recognizing the need to ramp up their operations, Lewis accepted a contract to make Psych IT. Perhaps now that they were on the surface, the caravans would actually be able to visit them. Yet another cluster landed back at the moon base, this one within the walls and on a short fuse. And so, the crew reluctantly piled into their shuttle and flew back to face it. Through a combination of smoke and very, very fussed bits of copper, the gang made short work of the intruders on day 262. After dealing with the nearest cluster, they decided to clear out the other one as well.
Dude, the commenter who suggested this smoke bomb technology is an actual genius.
No sooner had they cleared out the second cluster, another attack arrived on Atik's landing. This is genuinely getting ridiculous. Everyone but Teddy was assigned to the ship and prepared to disembark. Beck, sensing his chance, chose now to strike.
Beck's on a murderous rage and wants to kill the child. It's fine. It's come to this. It's finally come to this. Oh god, Teddy, you need to run. Oh no. Teddy. Beck, you wouldn't. You wouldn't kill the child, Beck, you piece of shit. You piece of shit. Oh, Lewis got him in time. Oh, Beck, you little so-and-so. You're so lucky we need soldiers or I'd leave you in the brig for a year. Unfortunately, I do need him back. But man, you are on freaking thin ice, you asshat.
The ER bot was charged with patching up Teddy, and the rest of the gang piled into the shuttle, but not before picking up a few more kitchen bots from a passing trader. Priorities, people. There was no time to think about justice just yet.
Wait, hold on, you can leave Teddy behind. We don't need Teddy. ER bot, please put Teddy back. What the hell was that? Oh god, this mortar's activated. Oh,
Not one to be left out of the fun, Mindy ran out into the cotton field and began sniping down the mechs just as the rest of the squad arrived. The crew cleared out the remaining mechs and descended upon the cluster to put a stop to that mortar as dawn broke on day 263. Clearly some better defenses were in order.
Oh, Mindy's out here building. Good job, Mindy.
A passing trader sold them some Glitterworld medicine and Martinez almost became cat food. The fortifications around the base were reinforced and turrets were added to the perimeter. A quick check-in on the moon's CCTV feed revealed that the damn ER bot had not, in fact, patched up Teddy just yet. After a bit of fiddling, it was discovered that giving it an order to operate on her would kick it into action. Looks like she's getting a new pair of legs after all. Before anyone could commission an ethics board to look into the Hippocratic implications of this methodology, the next quest raid arrived. Cinematic lines descend again. Lewis wiped the sweat off her brow and steadied her rifle. The clock had just struck 2 a.m. on day 264. Exactly 5 days since the last attack. The mechs were punctual. You had to give them that. She'd once again ordered Dogwater to draw their attention. This wave was comprised entirely of Scythers, so all they needed to do to survive was keep their distance. An easy victory. Vogel, the pacifist that he was, hid in cover and shouted out targeting data to the rest of the crew. Using the footage relayed from the moon base to his wrist display, he was able to track the relative positions of each little figure moving around outside the walls. He could also almost trace the arc of each bullet as it zipped across the screen towards its intended target. He'd done this so many times now that it was almost routine. Nothing much surprised him anymore. The radar pinged again. His jaw dropped. A creep of feral tortoises were swarming over the landscape towards the walls at glacial speed. He was so distracted by this, in fact, that he completely missed the pair of Scythers studiously tunneling their way through the mountain wall. It was only when Snuffles began to bark that he glanced back at his screen and saw them. The crew spun on their heels and sprinted back to the colony. Oliver and Snuffles put up a brave fight and stalled the toasters long enough for Martinez to swoop in and finish them off. The turrets finished off the last of the fearsome tortoises, and the crew began to patch themselves up. Day 265 opened with a bit of a medical mishap. The ER bot, despite claiming to understand tongues on a theoretical basis, shattered Teddy's jaw while attempting to install one. Thankfully, that ethics committee is still very much theoretical as well, and a second tongue was whipped up for it to try again. A replacement jaw went in shortly afterwards, and since she was already under the knife, plans were drawn up to swap out her injured eye. Work steadily continued on the water moon as the third and fourth quarters were now halfway assembled. The second quarter, now complete, was disassembled and recommissioned in limestone, slate, sandstone, limestone, and granite. A different theme for each quarter, all tied together by glistening marble walkways. The crew sought not to escape Atik Prior, but to recreate it up here in their own image. By the end of day 266, work on the second quadrant was well underway. Teddy received her new eye, and Martinez picked up a Team Tree sponsorship. On day 267, the gods blessed the gang with an update to their simulation. 2 new moons had appeared in the night sky, completely of their own accord. Truly, it was a miracle. As it is in heaven, so too shall it be on Atik, as large canisters filled to the brim with, bear genomes raid down on the colony. What the f*** is going on here, dude? Try read that with a straight face, man. You can't do it. You can't do it. You're lying if you say you can. Recognizing the dire need for more materials, Martinez ordered the excavation of a large chamber on Atik's landing. These blocks would fuel the work up on the water moon. A mech raid dropped in outside the walls up at the moon base, but it was quickly dealt with by the killbots. Day 268 saw the base expand considerably as the crew's desire for stone increased. Day 269. Nice. By day 270, the crew was growing restless. Having nothing to shoot at for over a week was really starting to get to them, and so Lewis set them loose on the local wildlife. They canned up every bird, lizard, and elephant within rifle range in preparation for their upcoming expeditions. Time had flown by so quickly that the quest to defend Scratch was already up for completion, and the squad had a little party to celebrate. Let's see what they're all talking about. Martinez spoke about taming rats with dog water. That's a brand new sentence. Vogel is talking to the child about vomiting. Fucking normal moon people, that's for sure. Mindy spoke about hairstyles with Martinez. Now we're talking. Beck said a word about fighting cheaters to Mindy. Beck, please, just stop talking to children. Dogwater talked about raiders with Beck. Beck said a word about roulette with Mindy as well. Martinez and Beck quipped about learning blackjack. I think that tells me they want a little bit more recreation down here. We could feed him a poker table. We got the space. A more formal rec room was planned out for the next big occasion. As if to rain on our parade, the flu hit the colony, and the colon, am I right, on day 271. Ah shit, everybody's got the flu. Martinez, Lewis, Billy Boy, and Dogwater. Billy Boy has just been chilling down here, enjoying his goddamn life.
without a spine.
To appease whichever wrathful god was mocking us, as well as her own bruised conscience, Lewis ordered that Billy Boy be provided with a brand new spine. And then the Oprah clip, you get a spine! You get a spine! You get a spine! Shed loading then made an unwelcome return to the moon, and all non-essential appliances, with the exception of Beck, were shut down. Shortly afterwards, a shuttle landed to retrieve Scratch.
Oh, thank you, Hollerbuck. Very cool. Imagine being delivered by drone.
In a bout of cosmic irony, the payment for this quest was a pair of Resurrector mech serums. Watney and Johansson were then rather unceremoniously dumped out of their sarcophagi, and Beck ran over with the first of the two injectors. Johansson's body convulsed and spasmed as the nanites ripped through her neurons and began rebuilding the pathways that made her, well, her. However, the nanites took one look at her scarred and mangled grey matter, decided that severe brain damage was character building, and as such left it intact. Watney was similarly revived shortly afterwards, and both were placed under observation in the hospital until they learned how to walk again. They weren't the only things springing back to life, however, as reports from the moon began to come in of what looked to be human settlements near Atik's Landing. They were, seemingly, from what Teddy could make out at that distance, primitive but armed. Billy Boy received his spine shipment shortly after this, and the water moon saw the first walls go up around the completed quarters. The bots seem to have a lot of trouble with roofing jobs, which, in fairness to them, is probably asking a little too much of a Roomba.
I'm going to show you how to use a roof ladder.
Regardless, they were more than capable of throwing together a hydroponics bay, and on day 272, the first trays were seeded and the first power conduits chased through the walls. Still far from ready for habitation, but growing closer each day. By day 273, the rec room on Atik's Landing was completed, and an ensuite bathroom was installed. The gang had also somehow picked up a pet cobra in all the commotion.
How's our pet cobra doing? Is he friends with anybody? Nah. He is occasionally killing chinchillas, though. Also, meet Cobra 1. This is not an acceptable name. His name shall be Bottom G. Just to piss off all of the tater tots in the comment section.
Joke's on you, tough guy. I can't read.
Which was immediately overshadowed by Watney and Johansson springing back into action.
And she's up. She's still brain damaged, but she's up. These two are so in love. It's so nice to see. Because often characters in Rimworld will get married and then like fall in love and they'll be all happy and then it just collapses inwards like a dying star. Not here, baby. Not today.
Watney and Johansson slipped right back into the gap they had left in the colony, their love for one another seemingly reaching out past them and sweeping over everyone around. As dawn broke on day 274, the entire crew awoke feeling rested and refreshed, hearing the ecstatic laughter of the reunited lovers. Perhaps there was room in this broken world for hope, after all. Their tranquility was soon interrupted by yet another mech raid, which was polite enough to dig a tunnel for us before piling themselves up the scrap. How thoughtful. A trader then showed up with a handful of gene packs for sale. With virtually no experience tinkering with genetics, the crew picked up a random collection of things. As the transaction went through, the trader noted, as if in passing, that the death risk gene could make someone potentially immortal. Lewis slammed down the phone before he could say any more.
The dark side of science was a pathway to many abilities that some consider to be unnatural.
Still, their words rang through her mind. Perhaps no one else would need to die. Perhaps she could save them all this time. Except for Holobot 5. He was always a goner.
He's gonna make it, I believe in him. Okay, I listen, this is why we don't gamble, kids.
Lewis ordered them to start packing up the base. Their purpose was now clear.
I need archogenetics.
Dogwater watched the shuttle blast off for the moon on day 275, with a distinct sense of relief. Finally, those horrific cyborgs would be as far away from her as they could conceptually be. Still, she would miss little Mindy, and set up a telescope so she could check in on them every night. The rest of the crew landed back on the surface after a few short hours. The place seemed so cold and haphazard after the relative luxury of life in 1G. A pallor hung about the place, and as everyone moved back into their old rooms, they felt as if they were on the edge of disaster all over again. Suddenly, a scream rang out through the hallways of the base. Lewis panicked. Mechs? Scythers? Had they missed some? Had they slipped through? But no. These were not the cries of physical pain. These were laced with a grief far deeper than that. Johansson, seemingly out of nowhere, had broken up with Watney.
Oh, fuck. Ooh. Ex-husband. Ooh. Johansson dumped him? Oh, Watney, what did you do? Oh god, Beck was talking about sweating with her. Oh god, Beck, you're just the worst person I've ever met. Just please don't date Johansson, man. That is all I ask.
Shattered, Watney threw himself into his work. He ordered the bots to clear out space in the storeroom to make room for a drug lab. If she could break his heart, he would break bad.
Jesse, we need to cook.
By day 276, the gang had fired up the ovens for yet another episode of everyone's least favorite TV show, Cooking with Largely. Well, boy howdy, welcome back, y'all. I'll be your rootin', tootin', stereotype exploiting celebrity chef today. Last time we learned how to make a mighty fine killbox quiche, and today we're cooking up some old-fashioned genetic material. I can't keep that up, man. I can't do it. We're making furries today, okay? I don't know how else to say this. I don't know what else to tell you guys.
Oh my god, we could turn somebody into a fox.
You see, right, the Rimworld Biotech DLC allows you to mess around with people's genetic makeup. The gang had already experimented with this by producing the Holy Men, but now it was time for one of them to become the Lisan El Gaib. However, before they injected a bunch of DNA-cracking CRISPR proteins into their future prospects, the gang decided to first test out their methodology on a few, volunteers. Before they could get too far along the Unit 357 cosplay they were going for, a quest to retrieve some more relic information came through, and the entire group bundled themselves into a shuttle and headed down to the surface. This provided the perfect opportunity to pick up even more volunteers.
This is note, Hopi's down. Hell yeah. Okay, Hopi's an option. Nails is down as well. Unfortunately, we have killed Smelly. Hufflemore. Okay, and we got Hufflemore.
And 3 new Spartan candidates were added to the gene pool. The prison was then expanded to accommodate them and was fitted with all the finest moon furnishings. Hopi was the crew's first volunteer, and the implantation was a complete success. It would be several years before she would be genetically stable enough to receive any further, upgrades, but that should be plenty of time to dodge any impending ethics committees.
It's day 277. We need to cook, Jesse. You hear me? We need to cook.
By day 278, the shed loading had really overstayed its welcome, and Martinez started to work on a new solar farm. Billy Boy then summoned the courage to fall out of bed and could now be captured and added to our retinue of volunteers.
Hey, Dogwater, could you rescue the man? Don't capture him. Oh, right! Of course! We are now enemies with these people, which means Billy Boy might become Billy Guy. As in our guy, as in a guy we can make friends with. Let's give him a spine here.
As the most experienced ex-con in the business, Dogwater was tasked with learning how to make prisoner friend. That wasn't the only breakthrough though, as Johansson had the epiphany that genes could be reused if combined in a specific way.
You get it multiple times? Oh my god, it's not a one-use thing? I can make them all furries?
This also meant that everyone in the colony could conceivably become immortal. Before she had time to really stew in the idea, a broken ship arrived next door, just begging to be hacked. Vogel's shenanigans had attracted the attention of the mechs, and on day 279, a couple of them landed to mess with him. A textiles trader then stopped by, and Teddy got her first taste of true Riz. She bought a ton of hyperweave and synthread to make into clothing, as the former is functionally bulletproof. Speaking of which, Johansson then attempted to airlock herself, as the suit had taken one too many dinks.
Johansson, do not airlock yourself, you stupid bastard.
And Lewis figured it was maybe finally time to actually connect the workshop to the base, so this wouldn't happen as much. Beck finished off the hack, and the crew piled back into the shuttle and returned to the moon. Day 280 was one of maintenance. The crew expanded the base's footprint a little more and spent the rest of the day replacing and repairing their equipment. Day 281 was a little more involved. It was time to consolidate all the resources the crew had gathered, and so Vogel took the shuttle down to collect the wood that was currently stockpiled at Atik's landing. Just as he left, a tiny mech raid landed on the water moon and started wreaking havoc. Martinez cobbled together an emergency cargo rocket, and the team piled in to go put a stop to all of it.
Ah, that's not great.
As if to mock me specifically, Randy then sent us an organic, non-GMO catboy named Tom to play with.
Uh-oh. Tom, run. Tom, run.
Teddy managed to bring him a suit just in time to avoid decompression. Our absent patriarch Jeff then got back on the horn and requested that the crew give his favorite catboy a new place to call home in exchange for another Psylink level and some archive capsules, whatever those are. Tom turned out to be a pretty handy little guy, and the decision was made to let him stay. As if enough stuff hadn't happened already, Billy Boy chose that exact moment to try and escape, and Dogwater had to employ some Neanderthal diplomacy down on Atik's landing.
Oh, Billy Boy, you are in grave danger, brother. Ooh, 13 damage from a human fist? Neanderthals are crazy, man. Okay, capture, put him back in the cage.
Vogel brought the ship into land on day 282 with a full load of long, hard wood, and then immediately blasted off for the water moon to rescue the fire team there. With all the people suddenly joining their weird little family, it was clearly time for some new bedrooms. In fact, the entire base could probably do with an overhaul. All work on the water moon would be paused until they could get this place sorted out. Day 283 saw the next rice crop being sown and the base continuing to grow. The kitchen bots down on Atik's landing began preparing even more meals for the moon to be delivered by railgun. The future is now, people. Apparently, this post-scarcity utopia that we were all living in hadn't made its way into the prison system yet, as the prisoners were all starving. The colonists weren't feeding them their paste from their machine, and so a second one was planned out for them to use at their leisure. The luxury. Bah! Speaking of which, a pair of jade thrones were placed down in the room above the workshop for Lewis, and whoever she chose to succeed her. The crew's foray into the wilds of medical science continued with the invention of synthetic repair modules. These handy little nanites would be able to heal scars and regrow lost limbs if needed. They might even be able to convince Johansson to stop being such an idiot.
No.
The first of the two thrones were finished by day 284, and another spacecraft hacking opportunity presented itself. The mechs didn't take very kindly to the gang logging into their Facebook accounts, and dropped by on day 285 to politely ask them to stop. Turns out they weren't kidding about telling their prison cousins about this particular breach of personal security, and as such a series of raids and clusters then landed. The raids were easy enough to deal with on their own, but a solar flare put any thoughts of handling the cluster today to bed.
Those metal bastards are targeting the product, Jesse! It's day 286 and we're all out of psychite, you idiot!
Another shell then rammed into the school-side airlock, and enough was enough. Lewis gathered up the gang and sallied out to meet them. The crew lined up against the wall and began picking off the toasters one by one, while Tom provided visual cover with the smoke launcher. Despite literal years of practice, fireproof clothing, and the total and complete lack of environmental oxygen, Watney managed to hold on to his title of Universe's most flammable man. Beck went down shortly afterwards, and the gang fell back to recuperate, while Johansson stayed behind to try and take out the automortar. Unfortunately, she went down before she could do so, and had to be rescued. The mech's napalm was apparently hot enough to burn the underground cables beneath their oil patches, and Watney, sensing cultural appropriation, decided to walk directly into the fire.
Watney, please. Yeah, let these things trickle in, let the centipede wipe itself out, and then once that's done, these are pretty trivial to deal with. This is a bit of a pain, though.
The next round hit the booze supplies, and enough was, once again, enough. Using the smoke grenades and an incremental approach, they took out the mortar and then turned their attention to the rest of the mechs that had scattered themselves around the map. Having put down most of the problems, the gang pulled back to the base to regroup, and Martinez finally snapped. He climbed up on his kitchen chair and declared for all to hear that Lewis's mother was a and her father smelled. Enraged, Lewis ordered the entire colony to whoop his ass.
I'm being repressed!
Everyone was bruised and beaten by day 287, but at least they were alive. Lewis had picked up a nasty infection, and most of the colony was bedridden in some way. This of course meant it was time for the old leg rotor, and several members of the crew got upgrades. An exotic goods trader represented the perfect opportunity to offload their product, and the gang walked away with some more archive capsules, maps, a bionic finger, an insanity lance, a field research kit, a telescope, and their very first Omnibot. Unlike the other three, this one could do just about anything, and pretty darn well.
Takes 250 watts, and what does it do? It does everything. It's an Omnibot. Okay, that kind of tracks, now that I think about it. So he builds, he repairs, he does all of it. Okay, so he's eights in everything, I understand.
By day 288, Lewis's infection was beginning to recede. Despite this, it was decided that the gang should give her some synthetic kidneys to ensure she'd be able to fight off the next one too. On day 289, Martinez ordered the crew back into the fight.
Should have jetpacked in once the smoke was up. In retrospect, minor mistakes were made. Martinez, brother, you good? Just gonna run around in circles outside and fire. Okay, cool. Makes a lot of sense to me, personally. It's exactly what I would have done too. He's very clever. The thing about Martinez is that he's kind of actually a stealth genius. A lot of people don't know this about him, but he doesn't ever make mistakes.
Apparently, the battle wasn't the only thing heating up, as Johansson and Beck decided to do the unthinkable.
Johansson and Beck? Oh, God, no. In the middle of a firefight? Oh, and Johansson was the one girl. What are you doing? In front of Watney? Oh, he's gonna hate him. No, and I guess he's okay with it. Oh my God. Okay, what does Beck think about Watney? Listen, I know we're having a war here, but this is much more important. Oh, Johansson, you idiot, dude. You're gonna turn up Watney for the freaking universe's worst doctor? Billy Boy has died of malnutrition? Dogwater, weren't you supposed to be feeding him? Oh, there's no food. There's no food for Dogwater. Oh. Okay, maybe you are in a bit of trouble. Okay, Beck and Johansson have already broken up there. Who could have seen this coming? Beck broke up with her.
Ugh. At least we didn't have to suffer long. The crew then cleared out the last of the nasties, and the Butts finished off Tom's new playpen. Lewis used the Psylink and leveled up enough to learn Vertigo Pulse. This was an AoE ability that could incapacitate any organics in quite a wide radius. Not overly useful for most of the people the gang ends up fighting, but really handy for dealing with riots. Beck then developed an infection, and the decision was made to rebuild the hospital with sterile materials instead of the regolith and feces that they were apparently made of at present. Apparently grateful for their newfound features, Hopi then joined the colony. She was given a suit and a bedroom and set to work. We can into Foxgirl.
It is true.
More bedrooms were added on day 290, and the research team's investigation into treating neurological disorders was finally complete. The surface was beginning to look a little too jank, even for Martinez, and so a crematorium was established to deal with the corpses. Tom was given the other half of the smoke equation to make it happen. You could have like fire plus smoke equals Tom, I don't know, and then you just hide the smoke. I don't know. He got the flamethrower. Okay, he got the flamethrower. It's a very funny joke. Probably.
Comedy is subjective, Murray.
Lewis had apparently found time for her hobbies and gifted the sculpture she just made to the prisoners. On day 291, a new group of refugees reached out for help.
So 5 desperate refugees are approaching. It's refugees all over again. It's refugees all the way down. I say we try.
New rooms were quickly thrown together to house them, and a few more suits were ordered up. With the monument quest now complete, the gang decided to repurpose the expansive space as a brewery. Day 292 was arguably the most important day for the entire colony yet. Mindy, our beloved daughter, had come of age. Hers was a tale of pain and loss, and so it was no wonder that she had developed a passion for medicine and therapeutic care. She was kind and wise for her age, and could not, under any circumstances, be lost. The crew gathered around and muttered in hushed tones about what could be done. She was the second child of the colony, it was true, but she was also the most precious. Their decision was unanimous. She would be made immortal. They did not make this decision lightly, for they knew that they were meddling not only with the laws of nature, but with potential future continuity as well. Martinez prepared the materials for the operation, and her mother crafted the xenogerm implantation device. Mindy was ushered into the hospital, and the ER bot carefully embedded it just below her neck. Soon, she would be deathless.
So long as they brain remains intact, the carrier of this gene will never die. Oh my god. Infinite Mindy. Infinite Mindy.
Hofflemore, another of the volunteers, then decided to go full-time and joined the crew. They were given a new outfit and a suit. The order then came down to pack up Atik's landing. The gang had greater ambitions now. On day 293, Vogel flew down to Atik's landing for what would be the last time. As they loaded the last of the resources and all of the animals onto the shuttle, he wondered if this would be the last he saw of the once beautiful planet. Back on the moon, planning on the brewery was still well underway. The lower area was reconfigured as a recreation room, and a workshop was set up to process the hops. Dogwater, completely naked and entirely unassisted by technology, then picked up an entire elephant and carried it into the ship. Day 294 provided a much-needed reality check. Turns out, space isn't a fun place to be in without a suit. Vogel brought the ship into land and, like a reverse Noah, began shoveling animals out to their doom. Only Snuffles and the Men, mightiest of their bloodlines, survived the journey.
They will make an excellent dinner.
On day 295, the order was sent out to allow the refugees in. Again, not all that sure where they've been waiting all this time, but here we go. Unlike the last two attempts, this group actually made it all the way into the wall before they collapsed.
Okay, is everybody inside? Everybody's inside. Hell yeah. Okay, cool.
Without enough suits to house them all, a ramshackle tunnel was built leading all the way out to where they were huddled. They were their own worst enemy at this point, as one mood break and the entire group would die. The crew rushed to put up the last few pieces of inexplicably airtight sheet metal and finally, successfully rescued some refugees. If that isn't an indicator of growth, I don't know what is.
Oh my god, the roof collapsed. Oh no. Oh no, 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 no. Oh my god, we've done it. Alright, so I don't trust these people not to betray us, but let's have a look at who we've got. We actually saved some refugees. Oh my goodness. Oh, okay. So the Wookiee is already friends with Johansson, somehow. Because she's physically stunning. Yeah, no, fair. Okay, I get it. That goes for apparently everybody already likes Johansson, having seen her through a spacesuit. That's when you know. Alright. Lawman doesn't like the fact that he can't... Okay, Lawman here is a misandrist. Sorry, misogynist, so sorry. Not a huge lady guy over there. We've got a dirt mole person who's a careful shooter night owl named Tara. This guy's a hussar. They are engineered soldiers. Ooh, okay. Look at that. Yeah, he's quite the fighter. Now listen, he'd be pretty good to have, even if he will hate half the colony. And the Wookiee man here is a Yatakin. He's good for cold environments, and he's pretty beefy. And look at that, they've got plenty of... Oh wow, okay, so they've got plenty of skills here.
On day 296, the gang decided to make some much-needed upgrades to the base, throwing together a second freezer to store the surplus beer wort, and placing down some statues in the hospital. Itching to continue their genetic research, Johansson and Beck approached Lewis about visiting another ancient lab they'd found down on the planet. There was also a data hack mission they could do while they were down there. The thought of her own personal harem of assorted furkin must have done it for Lewis, as she immediately agreed and authorized the expedition. The crew gathered themselves into the shuttle and left Tom and Vogel behind to watch the prisoners. The lab was built into the side of a mountain and surrounded by what appeared to be rather severe fallout. The crew landed near the stream that snaked through the vicinity. and gathered by the front doors. There were so many of them now. Enough that Mindy grew nervous. So many bodies, so many minds. Each of them reaching out to her, quietly whispering the thoughts that were never meant to be heard by anyone other than those thinking them. Vogel had told her, in that soft way of his, that she could no longer die. She'd seen death several times now, and it had never been permanent before. How was she so different? She pushed this out of her mind and readied her trusty rifle. This would be her first real mission as a grown-up, and she was determined to do it right. Dogwater was the first through the doors. Mindy peered past her crewmates into a filthy corridor illuminated by ancient, flickering lamps. Nothing. The rest of the crew moved in and quickly split into their fire teams, just like they'd planned. Mindy and Martinez took the left flank and opened up a door into another clear corridor. Suddenly, she heard a thump behind her and turned to see something that looked a lot like her dog Snuffles. Within seconds, it was on top of Martinez and shoving its massive horn clean through his arm. She and the others across the way fired round after round into the monster, but it just wouldn't die. Martinez was an unrecognizable mess of blood and hyperweave tatters when they finally put the cursed thing down. She took up his remaining good arm and helped him back to the ship for triage. Seeing that he would make it, the remaining fire teams spread out and continued their sweep of the facility. As they went from door to door, room to room, Teddy took the opportunity to break off from the rest of the crew. Why, after all, should she be forced to live in her little sister's shadow? She was the first child of Luna 3, the firstborn heir to the genetic legacy of their species. And yet, she was the one who was forgotten. And yet, it was Mindy who was chosen to safeguard their legacy through eternity. Mindy, that brave, insolent, strange child. She had always unnerved Teddy, whispering to herself like she did when she thought no one was watching. Teddy could have sworn she sometimes whispered her own thoughts back to her. Mindy, the golden child, the immortal, her friend, her sister. Awash with rage, jealousy, guilt, and regret, Teddy stumbled through a door and was greeted with a new vision. Rather than the strange, kind face of her little sister, she saw its antithesis. A vile, scaly beast, like something ripped out of the pages of her picture books. Before she even had time to let loose a second volley, she was hit with a torrent of steaming, acrid bile. It ate through her suit as if it were little more than paper. Every inch of her body screamed with pain as her skin was flayed from her bones. Still, she moved. She was Teddy. She was tough. She forced open the door and, as she stumbled back through it, felt another wave strike her back. The pain was so all-encompassing that her mind simply shut down. She could not think. She could not move. Her suit's emergency systems went into overdrive and pinged every member of the team. Within minutes, they were on the scene. And within seconds, the beast was dead. Lewis grabbed her mangled body and dragged her out towards the ship. Beck ran ahead of them and prepared the triage area once more. They were too late. Teddy slumped down in the dirt next to the ship, her body torn and broken, and, with her last breath, uttered a single word for no one to hear. Mindy. On day 297, her body was returned to the moon, along with the spoils her sacrifice had allowed. Teddy, the noble warrior who had challenged a dragon and lost. They held a funeral for her that same day. She was entombed in an ornate jade sarcophagus. Mindy was later told that she'd led the service and that she'd said a few words, but she could never recall them. or even as she'd spoken, she'd heard the whispers. The whispers coming from within that bile green tomb. On day 298, the crew decided to return to the surface to investigate one of the logging camps they'd identified previously. As they landed and disembarked, they were greeted with a sight as bizarre as any they'd seen so far. A community had formed around a lumberyard and was almost entirely comprised of mutants. Clearly, whichever humans had survived Jeff's apocalypse had been just irradiated enough down in their caves to produce stable mutations.
Alright, looks like a bunch of humans. Oh no, I was so wrong. What the hell are you? You're a slug man, a Helixian. You eat corpses. What in God's name are you? You devour brains. What the? Oh my god, we got a bug man. Nugfur. He's a hiveling. He has spinnerets. Ooh. Parasitic stinger implanter. Wait, I'm so sorry. Give me a second. I'm so sorry. We can use people to spawn more hivelings with Deathless. So if we give this guy Deathless, we can implant Deathless and have infinite Deathless. Hold on, what if the person we implanted in is Deathless? Then do they die, or? There's only one way to find out. Unfortunately for them, they had not developed the immunity to very, very fast bits of copper they'd need to survive an encounter of this kind, and were unfortunately killed. The party has informed me that if they didn't want to die, they shouldn't have been in the path of those bullets. Additionally, the party will be suing the families of the deceased as compensation for the psychological damage they inflicted upon our brave troops by dying so selfishly. Stench has died. Who is that? I don't know who that is. Doherty is dead. Who are these people? Are any of you Doherty? Comment section, if you remember who Doherty is, let me know.
The gang made off with their loot and took it all back to base.
Where's my underground piping, by the way? Are we out of... Oh,
Day 299 rolled around, and the colonists were rather distraught to discover that they had exactly 8 liters of chem fuel left in their reserves. Regardless, the last piece of information on the Dalmas relic they'd been chasing for so long was at their fingertips. The structure they found was quite remarkable in that it was so ordinary. An exacting square guarded by a singular priestess. Weiss did not take kindly to their intrusion and was quickly put down. They made it clear that they would never join the colony, and so were left to their own devices.
Oh, he's unwavering. Okay, never mind. Weiss, you get to stay behind. You survived this day, buddy.
Finally, they'd found it. Dalmas. The long-lost relic of their people. So long-lost, in fact, that no one was entirely sure what it was supposed to do. Regardless, they piled into the lander and hurtled down towards Atik Prior one final time.
Whoa, it's a jungle. There's a temple. Jungle temple? Oh my god, yes please.
The temple was crude, but carefully constructed. Dormant mechanoids scattered around the perimeter were the only resistance they could see. The squad made short work of the guards outside, and then entered the temple proper. And there it was, Dalmas, the horn of some mighty, long-forgotten beast. The squad charged in, took up positions around it, and secured their prize. And with that, another chapter closes. 300 days of turmoil, passion, tragedy, and perhaps even a little bit of hope. 300 days trapped up here with these lunatics. However, their story is far from over. What becomes of the Luna 3 colony is up to you now, dear viewer. Will Mindy surpass Lewis in her quest for immortality? Will Beck succeed in ending her story early? Will Watney and Johansson ever reignite their love? Will Martinez ever move past the tragedy that was Teddy? And will Vogel ever do anything of consequence at all? You decide. Like this video if you enjoyed it, leave a comment telling us what your favorite moments have been and whether you'd like to see more, and most importantly, please share this as widely as you can. And as always, we'll see you in the next one. Cheers. Okay, now comes... Okay, this will be cinema. This will be kino. This will be fucking artwork, okay? Fucking guy. Okay, let's do this. I have been informed that absolutely no one at party headquarters could have seen this accent coming. No one. It is impossible because it is so bad. No one at the party headquarters was wearing a hat. I was not sure if it was the birthday or not. Sorry. Lo, the great work continued unimpeded, for the incubation of another man had already begun. Now Emperor Palpatine is on the scene, baby. Oh god, that hurts my throat. Their new purpose was now clear. Water moon. Water moon. Water moon. I can't... How does English work? I can't make the two noises? And do I sound like this in real life? No wonder no one understands what the fuck I'm talking about. What a moon? Right? Tommy, the moon's full of water is. I seen it. Me. Hate the wife, love the water moon. Day in the life of a regular British water moon. Wake up, rev the Bugatti, the fishes, back to the chip shop. Or something, I don't know. Shed loading made its next canonical appearance on... Sorry, air fryer just finished. The irony is not lost on me. Teddy received her new eye, and Martinez picked up a Team Tress sponsorship. Team Tress? What the f*** is Team Tress? Hold on. That's the reference I don't understand anymore. Team Tress. Trees! Team Trees! Team Trees! F***ing Team Tress, dude. I gotta learn how to spell. And of course, a huge, genuine, heartfelt thank you to all the members and patrons that have bankrolled this project and so many others over the past year. Magic and I have been quietly working on this in the background for well over 300 real-life days now, and we hope it shows. We're very, very proud of our efforts, but this would have been quite literally impossible without all of you. If you're watching this and you'd like to see more projects like it, then please consider becoming a channel member today. And, if you are one already,
What are you still doing here?